Terror in the van. A spectre. An old Ford Escort van grunted as it drove through the mist, untouched. Its yellow light showed the wafting and curling of black waves around it. Black mist didn't seem to mind its presence there. As the van got closer, I could see a young man behind the wheel. He dipped his head beneath the curtain that hung across the sun visors. The little curtain had pointy edges like velvet daggers with bits of metal embroidered on each triangle. They reflected snaps and crackles of light. The black mist ignited as it folded in on itself. The van drove to the house where it turned around. It was square and musty, with a huge square back, the type built for practicality rather than the speed. I could see it toppling if it were to corner too fast. It reversed closer to the house. The back door snapped open and the young man came out sat on an old barber's chair that extended on a wooden joist. Audril smiled as he looked at me. Glib sat on his chair. Electric cables extended from the chair's armrest on each side. "I've been looking forward to meeting you, gatekeeper," Audril said. The young man had a desert complexion. His thick eyebrows covered small eyes that watched me. "Your uniform looks a little dusty," I said. Audril smiled, exposing discolored teeth that were fixed in green gums. He got off the chair and came to the porch. Behind him, the van faded as if he were its power source. Audril watched it blank out of existence. "I didn't think I could bring it here." "It's a big part of you." I watched him. "Please come in." I took a step back, allowing Audril to ascend the 3 steps to the porch where he entered my house. I followed him into the lounge to find Mortimer sat in his usual spot, eyes open, watching Audril, who stopped the second he saw him. "Provided you remain seated, you will be safe," I said. Audril tentatively moved to the armchair. Desert dust sprinkled off his clothes as he sat down. He brushed his trousers and shirt with his fingers that had cracks of rust on them. "My floor will need a sweep after this guest." I noticed holes in his sleeves and torso. Audril pulled one leg over the other. His sandal hung off his foot as he bounced his leg. "Do you have tea, gatekeeper? The one my countrymen drink?" "Tell me about your van." "In my country, we're hospitable, refresh our guests with tea. It is our way and custom. I have extended hospitality to you by letting you tell me your story. That is your chance to alter the selection I've already made about your door." Audril glared at me, his face still, eyes blank. He wanted to strap me to the chair in his van and get working on me with his hand-powered tools. He would begin by driving a nail through each arm, fixing me to the barber's chair. Audril gave a curt nod. His grin exposed green gums creeping up his teeth. "Very well, gatekeeper." He looked at the fireplace. Mortimer appeared asleep on his paws. I could hear his breathing. He was alert and listening. "My van is my home. I spent many hours in there every day. It was easy. See someone I liked to have in my chair? I could do what I wanted after that. There is a freedom to that." "Not freedom, Audril. You're a slave to your urges. Do not mistake one for the other. The rest of us don't. You want to tell my story?" Audril gritted his teeth. "Please, continue," I said. Rage was ignited in the pit of my stomach, but my voice was calm. Van was my shield. I drove through town. People went about doing things like they do every day. Nobody suspected me. You know why? Audril smiled, teeth completely covered by his green gums. I made sure my van looked like other vans in town. It was genius. Now, just to pick my first client. Amir, Nabila's brother. He was a brute. One time he grabbed me and held me down and kept slapping me. He didn't like the way I looked at Nabila. This one was easy, gatekeeper. The van gave me power. I followed him for a while around town, and then when he was walking through a gully, I waited in the van. back doors facing the gully he was coming down. He came over to it and shouted, "Hey, move this piece of crap. People walk here." I watched him. "Hey," he slammed the back with his hand. I pressed the button. The doors opened wide. The barber's chair shot out and fixed into position. Zap. 2 tasers pierced him, one in the cheek and the other on his chest. He stood there shaking, eyes wide as they rolled back. Pull. 2 ropes with hooks shot out and wrapped around his arms. Yank. He was pulled on the chair, face first. Chair slid back into the van, doors closed. I drove off as if nothing happened. Audrey looked at me. "I do not take compliment for this, gatekeeper. I was given the van. Just shown how to use it. I will tell you later," he said. Parked away from everyone at the edge of town, I waited for Amir to open his eyes. It is always better when they are awake to see what I do. Slam. I drove a nail straight into Amir's arm just as his eyes opened. Slam. I did it again on the other arm. There was nobody around to hear him scream. I looked down at him, smiling. He did not recognize me. I had my face covered with a gas mask, and I wore a plastic suit. I was taught this garment makes them afraid. It did. When I spoke to him, my voice hissed from the mask. He thought I was some kind of demon. He wet himself. Oh no, I had to clean that up now too. I called him a big baby. Amir's eyes opened wide as he watched me eat a knife. I could see terror running through his mind. He was afraid. I pressed the knife down on his cheek. His cheek became sticky like gum. I did the same again to his other cheek. He broke my face, so I burnt his face. Audrey licked his lips. His tongue split at its tip, like a reptile's, licking out, tasting the air. Amir mumbled. I poked his teeth through his cheek. Ha ha ha. I placed the drill between his legs. He squealed like a pig. The van connected the plug to the battery, so it was simple. The drill spun. He shook trying to get away. Hands twisted, legs rattled. I laughed. Jam. I dug the drill into his thigh near his penis. He screamed. It felt good. So good. Jam. I dug it into the other thigh. I felt like I had smoked several cigarettes, one after the other. Audrey gazed at the fireplace, reminiscing, smiling. His teeth now fully submerged. Only green gums remained. My favorite tool, gatekeeper, is the handsaw, because it takes time to learn properly. You have to hold everything in place, but the most fun part is Amir felt each thrust and draw. Again, again, again. It took me a while to saw his hand off, the one that kept slapping me in my face. He will never do that again. Audrey grinned. Bits of green sludge secreted from his eyes, spreading towards each lens. Mortimer raised his head and watched Audrey. When did you start enjoying your van? I said. For you to learn that, I will tell you how I got the van. I was hungry after school had finished. Couldn't wait to get home for some chapati and tea. I told my friend that I was going to cut through the gully. It always stank, and it got your feet wet, so my friend wanted to go the long way home. I hurried up, thinking about hot chapatis my mom had ready for me when I got back. This made me run faster. I cut across a street and then turned right into another gully. My house was on the street beyond this narrow gully. Smelled foul, and my toes were wet from the sludge. I didn't care. I'd wash my feet when I got home, and the chapatis and tea will be waiting for me. I left the gully, turned right, nearly there, smiling, gatekeeper. I didn't even hear the van coming. Tell me, have you heard a diesel engine? It is very loud. especially in a narrow street. Somebody grabbed me from behind. I didn't see my parents again for a long time. It is life, huh? But you want to know why I ran the van, correct, gatekeeper? I nodded. What do you think? How do you think I got out? I kept my eyes on Audril. He turned his gaze to me. His face morphed into a lizard's face for a few seconds. He turned his attention to Mortimer. Will he attack if I stand? Better to show you what happened next. Please, I said. Audril stood up and unbuttoned his shirt and took it off to reveal a damaged torso, the type that has hand-powered tools applied to it. He tossed his shirt on the chair and pointed at a scar on his forearm. This is where they slammed a long nail into my arm. He angled the side of his torso, exposing a huge burn scar. This is where they used a blowtorch. He showed me his lower back. It had deep scars. This was the worst. They used a hot chisel to dig deep. 4, 5 times, I think. Audril took his sandals off. I looked down at his feet. A smaller middle toe was missing on one foot. The other had no toenails. That foot was crooked, as if it had not healed properly after it was broken. I was lucky, gatekeeper. I managed to keep my eyes and hands. Some of the others did not. Audril sat down. Only reason, I work for them as a van driver. Instead of them doing this to me, I did this to others. It was the regime's way of keeping the people afraid. I took Amir back and tossed him on the trash heap. People came running over when they saw him there. I drove off. This made them all afraid of the van because they saw my uniform. I was given a list of people my bosses wanted me to take, and as long as I did that, I could do what I wanted with the van. Gatekeeper. I had money. I had the van. I even returned home to live with my parents. My mother was proud that I secured a job and gave her money. She did not know what I did because I told her I worked in a shop. Every week I grabbed a name from the list, and I did things to them with tools. Audril sat in my armchair. His appearance reflected his lust for carnage. Scaly green forked tongue. Pale sludge secreted from his eyes. Gums devoured his teeth. Horrid. A spectre. I need you in my chair, gatekeeper. Swoosh. Audril grabbed me, fixing his long, scaly arm around my neck. Mortimer barked, but Audril had already carried me outside the house. He flung me against the van. I saw the doors open. Chair protruded out. Whack, I hit it, face first. The chair receded into the van, doors closed. Audril appeared in human form inside the van. Now for some fun, he said as he strapped my arms to the armrest. He picked up a nail and hammer from his toolbox. Mortimer's bark boomed. Audril collapsed to his knees, holding his ears. I slid through the straps on the armchair and stood up. You have forgotten where you are, Spectre. Slam, slam, slam. I rammed my fist into his torso 3 times. I grabbed his neck, slamming his head against the roof of the van. Crack. I piled him into the floor. Mortimer barked from the porch. The van disintegrated in seconds. Audril laid there on the ground, my hand tightly around his neck. His eyes bulged as black mist crept closer. Shards and thorns extended. These are the eyes of the little boy who was tortured, I said. Did you steal another? Turn them into you. I loosened my grip a little. Black mist rolled closer, ticking as its bones were cracking. Audril kept glancing at it. Not so cocky outside your van, young man. Answer me, or I'll leave you to the mist. It is carnivorous, and it has not been fed in a while. Audril nodded rapidly. Can we go inside, please? I shook my head. The mist drew closer. I grabbed several boys and girls off the street and made them sit in the chair. Most of them were tossed away except one. This pupil became my protege. And that's what I call them. Once you put on the mask, you are neither a boy or girl. You are just Van. This pupil endured more than I endured and surpassed even me with a liking for metal tools and ripping flesh. Yes, gatekeeper, there was one. Still gripping his throat, I lifted Odril to his feet. You made sure the cycle continued. People need to be kept in line, gatekeeper. I did that until they shot me, Odril said. He brushed his shirt with holes in it. No sand fell to the ground. Follow me, I said. I walked inside. Mortimer waited for Odril to enter the house and fell in behind him. I descended the stairs to the basement where I turned right and strode to the end of the corridor. There, I turned left and stopped at the fifth door on the left. Odril stopped beside me. I opened the door to reveal a barber's chair at the center of the room that had shelves stacked with tools. A woman was strapped to the chair, her face covered with a towel. She squealed, but her sound was muffled. Odril's eyes widened. Glee filled his face. You didn't tell me we are in heaven. He strode in. His attire transformed into a plastic suit that covered him fully. A gas mask covered his face. He went over to the victim. I like to see her face, gatekeeper. There is a caveat. If you stop applying your work, you will be the next one to sit in the chair, and one of them will wear the gas mask. Do you understand? Don't worry, gatekeeper. I can do this all day, every day, Odril said. He pulled the towel away. Mama, Odril said. I have done nothing wrong. Please let me go, the woman said. Odril turned to me. What is the meaning of this? Each soul you tortured was someone's daughter or son. You dished out pain and sorrow to many. Now it is your turn. Get to work. Your father is waiting for his turn in the chair.
No!
Odril? Son? The woman said. I closed the door and returned upstairs with Mortimer. I sat in my armchair. Mortimer went to his usual spot and sat down. A single malt whiskey waited for me on the table beside me. Thank you, Hamish. My old friend is around the house taking care of his own affairs, but he still manages to watch over me, and I have to thank him for that. You're probably wondering how Odril's parents were here, and why I permit Odril to torture them. I would respond with, be mindful of this house. All you see beyond a door is not what it appears to be. Beyond a door is a reflection of the entrance mind. I just tweak elements of that illusion. Odril, despite his tragic youth, he enjoyed being a spectre and hurting others. He needed the tables turned on him. Sooner or later he will submit and sit in the chair, for he will no longer be able to listen to his parents scream. When that happens, his parents will take turns in having a go with hand-powered tools. A taste of his own medicine, I say. You have to balance the books, even you and me. This is the universe we live in. Good night for now. See you next Sunday at 11, where I'll introduce you to another guest. Stay safe. Don't die in your sleep. Godspeed.